Hi, I'm Doug, and this is my daughter Megan. Megan and I have been on many adventures together, but this past February is probably the biggest adventure yet. And this is our blessed story. We served in Ukraine as missionaries. Our family was there for about 13 years, and we moved back to Washington State to where I'm teaching now. And over this past year, as Ukraine war picked up intensely with Russia, we started praying about going back and just blessing some of our friends and ministry partners there. One of our friends, Petro, who was an orphan kid in the orphanage where we used to serve, had grown up and he had actually served in the military and had fought on the front lines back in 2014 when the war actually started. And after much prayer and thought over our reasoning for going, we decided to go because God had just kind of led us to go at this point in time. Petro had occurred an injury and had an operation, and he was off the war front, and we had an opportunity to go visit and him and his family and just bless them while we were there.
So the highlight of the trip for me was definitely seeing Petro and his family. He has a 3-year-old daughter, and we got to just hang out, play games, play with cars, and color together, and we got to go out to eat and just enjoy each other's company, reminisce about old times, and just really encourage them, and they encouraged us. So it was great to be with him and his family.
Yeah, while we were there, we also had an opportunity to go to our old church, and I was able to share and encourage the people there. It was interesting to go back to church because many of the church members were gone. They had fled the war, and so the women and the children and families were apart. The men are off at war, and the church was made up of a lot of refugee families. So I was able to share in the church service in Ukrainian language, which is a little bit of a challenge for me, but I felt like I wanted to speak to the people's heart while we were there, and had a chance to pray over the soldiers that are at war and give a message of God's love and hope for them and just to encourage them. Many people asked us while we were there, weren't we afraid to go to Ukraine, especially now? And I think that for us, there was some fear there, but also the whole time we were there, we felt like that's where we were supposed to be. Prayer has been a huge part of this. So we prayed before we went, we prayed while we were there, we prayed with people while we were there. One of the things that I did, kind of like a tradition of mine while we were in Ukraine, and as the war started, I would go to Maidan, which is the center of the city, and it's kind of like the city square. And I'd get down on my knees and I'd just pray to God and cry out for the nation of Ukraine. And so one of the things that we did when we first got there, so we went down to Maidan and I got on my knees and I prayed. And another part of that tradition is I get up and we just look around the city and we just yell at the top of our lungs, Slava Bogu! Which is Ukrainian for praise God. So we're just lifting his name up as we were there and blessing the people that we were with. Well, our time in Ukraine, I tell people, try to kind of sum it up as our hearts are full and our hearts are heavy. So in these short little clips of our blessed story, we try to give you a glimpse of our time there. There's so much to tell, but God calls us to do some crazy things sometimes. And my encouragement to you is to step out and do what God's calling you to do. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes it takes a big step of faith, a big trust in God, but do the things that God's calling you to do, bless others. We had an opportunity to do that in Ukraine. It's not for everybody, but our hearts are full. Megan and I had a great time together. Keep praying for the Ukrainians. The war continues. I think we're at 9 years and 500 days or something like that. I can't keep track of the count. The war's been going on for a longer time than most of us even realize. But pray for Ukraine, lift Ukraine up, and bless them through your prayers.